Well, I have a question about Senate Bill 5. Are we in the process of extending current contracts with the city workers? Because it's my understanding from Representative Todd McKinney that if those contracts, and they're working with extending contracts across the state, that they'll be in existence for the next 2 or 3 years, whatever you negotiate, and won't be affected by Senate Bill 5 as much.
I don't know. I have a couple of union press. Has there been any? Well, I have 3. Has there been any discussions about extending contracts or anything with you guys?
Well, I think that we are all in different positions as far as when our contracts expire. I can only speak for the police contract. That our position as a union is that our contract does not expire for 22 months yet, and that our position is that if Senate Bill 5 is ratified by the voters in the fall, it still does not affect us until the expiration of our contract, right. December 31st, 2012. The unions are going to be very pressed to do away with Senate Bill 5. It passed today, and it's a sad day, I think, because this is going to, in my opinion, affect our communities as a whole. I mean, if you take away union power, union jobs, you take away a middle class, which is more foreclosures, which is more taxing on our city, and it's going to be more and more of a challenge for the new administration. So I didn't mean to take up so much time. I don't know you guys talk about your contracts. Chuck, when does your contract expire? Phil, when does your
ours is the same as PD, at the end of 2012. One of the big things, though, in question is with all of this, with the passage of Senate Bill 5, it's going to create so much litigation, because part of the problem is in the wording of this bill. And in the wording of this bill, I'll give you an example. There's a deal on the max that you can bank for sick time. Well, what's personal time? Because I have comp time, I have Kelly time, there's different terms that no one can answer. So who solves those problems? Well, and this is just one little minor thing. Who solves that? They'll all have to go to a court. The courts are already overwhelmed.
There hasn't been discussion or thought about what all the implications. They know what some of the things are that they're trying to accomplish, but the other implications of this have not been thought through or even discussed.
Once they get through the Senate Bill 5 through, then it'll go into the private industry, though. Exactly.
Oh,
it's just a trickle-down effect.
There's no question about that. So nobody in here should be feeling comfortable at all, because this is an assault on you. But the politics of it and how they're going to try to do this campaign is to separate out unionized employees from the rest of us.
Right. One against
that's what this whole thing. They have been bad mouthing union employees and getting people and pitting neighbor against neighbor. That's what this whole thing is about. But you got to understand, after they finish with them, they're coming after you.
Well, you can count on it. You can count on it. If you look at their legislative agenda that they have already on the books, the House bills and Senate bills that they're presenting, they're going after non-union workers. They're going after prevailing wage. They're going to attack every citizen in Ohio unless you're in the top percent.
That's exactly.
The bottom line is, this is just to separate everybody out. And once you break this group, it's just a trickle-down effect. The other thing is that really affected our body was the fact that all of a sudden now all the officers are not allowed to be in the collective bargaining. So you're just at the whim of whoever your supervisor is. The other thing in that is they proposed this medical, 15% of your employer's costs. Where I have a problem with that is in negotiations, what we proposed is, let's sit down and discuss what the true dollar amount deficit is in this city. Then let's look at dividing that by all the members, union, non-union, from the mayor to the janitor, as a percentage off of my income, direct money, right out of my wages. That's true dollar amount back to the city, solves the debt. They said, no, we can't do that. Well, in this bill, that 15% for our members It's not real bad. It's like $350 a month it'll cost our members for insurance. The bottom line, that's fine. I can make it with me and my wife working. She's a nurse over at Akron General. How about the single mom that's a secretary for the city of Akron making $18,000 a year with 3 kids? What you're creating here is those kind of people are better off to go on welfare. They'll be farther ahead. So now what does that do to the system? Now it drags it down more. Now there's more debt. So there's bigger problems than just, I'm going to break the union.
Yeah, no, one of the things here that's also what's going on, if you notice the comments that took place after the governor made his announced his budget, which is clearly anti-city, which is clearly anti-union, is clearly anti-anything that we're associated with is again, is anti-that. But notice the mayor's response to that. The first thing he says is, this is going to mean layoffs in police and fire. That's the first thing that came out of his mouth. Not a discussion about, okay, we need to get together and figure out how we're going to handle this. Right off the bat, which clearly this is, if you've watched the negotiations, and particularly the police negotiation, it's clear, despite what the mayor said at his State of the City address, how he feels about the situation with the Akron Police Department, to the point where he won't even allow incumbent officers to even be considered for being chief.
For those that may not know, I'm a city union president also. We're not the bad guys here. And what's missing through the whole thing is communication. What's been missing for a long time is communication. If you look back at the past history of city bargaining, we have communicated, we have done sacrifices. You know, we're cognizant of you people that are the general public that you pay our salaries. But we've come to the table, we've realized there's a recession, we've come to the table, we've done furloughs. It's not easy for me or these guys to stand up in front of our people and say, you've got to make sacrifices. The propaganda that's out there that we're unwilling to talk is absolutely absurd. We have been willing to talk with this present city administration, with the future city administration also. That's the key, communication, and we got to get back to that, and that's how we settle problems and solve issues, and that's what collective bargaining is about.
Well, there's a clear commitment on my part to have those open and honest discussions, and that's what we have to have in order for all of us to feel good about where we are, what we're doing, what we have to do in the future. We all need to be a part of that. This is a collective. We are all in this boat together.
That's right.
This has to be a collective effort on all of our parts. And honestly, there's folks now that are in charge. They don't want to talk to anybody. They don't want to be questioned by anybody. They don't want to communicate with anybody. That has to change.
It was in our city charter that we were supposed to have a city health department. And we were supposed to have a city, not planning department, but building department. And that was done away with without the public voting on city charter changes. And I guess what I'm at, and we've heard talk about merging our police department with the sheriff's department. I would hope that in your administration that the rule of law in the city of Akron would be followed, and it hasn't been under this administration.
Well, there's a common thread to each one of those mergers. The building department has been a department that has been difficult to manage. I think there's been issues, there's been things that have over the years that transpired. The health department had conflicts with the mayor as well on some things. Both those departments are gone now. Clearly, he has issue with the police department. Okay. So when those things come and this whole thing about merging and other things is discussed, they're not irrational. in their thinking, because there's a common thread. Each one of the departments that has been eliminated, the mayor is perceived as difficult to manage. Well, part of the job of being a mayor is managing the departments. That's the job. When council discussed the building department merger, in the, it wasn't a retreat, it was the council caucus meeting. That's a meeting, sometimes we have more in-depth discussion at dinner, after committee meetings, and before the council meeting. It was discussed and said that the building department, the combined building department, would be less efficient than the Akron building department in terms of time it takes to process building permits. I'm like, oh, wait a minute now. Do you know the council didn't blink? Now for me, there's two things that have to happen in order for me to feel comfortable about a merger of any kind. One is it's going to save money. Two is it's going to improve the efficiency of that service. So at the end of the day, you benefit. Those are the two things that have to be met before you even have a discussion about that. And that wasn't met. And I've heard problems and issues with the combined building department. We're going to see what happens with the health department. And I can tell you there were employees that went into the Summit County Health Department that took substantial cuts in their pay. And I'm in a mixed crowd, so I cannot say exactly what I want to say on that, but that was a load of horse hockey, okay? That should not have happened.
To say one thing, it's not a question, but I wanted to say one thing. I know there's probably the majority of you in here are in support of Mr. Williams. I am too. You know, he's still part of the current administration. So you guys, there's probably some of you have a little bit of reserve, but I still have a little reserve.
No problem with that.
I'm honest. But I'm going to tell you guys this. I've seen him at meetings be the only one, like he said earlier, stand up against things. He doesn't have the puppet strings attached to him like the other ones on council do. And the other thing I want to say, this man was the only one to come back when our 38 guys were laid off and show true concern for them being laid off back in September of '09. He was the only one